Hi, everybody. It's Thursday, the 10th of June, and you know what that means. Time for my Facebook Global live update on the world of travel. So much has happened in the last week. Gee, what a surprise. We got a lot of ground to cover. If you got some questions, send them in. I know some of you have already sent in questions. We'll get to those as well a little bit later. Let's start with a couple of things. First of all, sort of a sad anniversary, the third year since we lost Anthony Bourdain. June 8th marked the third year since his untimely and sad suicide in France. Thought I'd mention that because it seems like it was just like yesterday. The world is moving so fast. There's a new book out, by the way, by his assistant, and I recommend it. But let's move on. I'm coming to you today from Wilmington, Delaware, and the Hotel DuPont, where we're doing also our radio show that you'll be able to hear this Saturday. Ion Travel on all of your stations. We also stream it live. And if you want to do that, you can always go to our website, petergreenberg.com, and then you'll see the radio icon, hit it, and at 10:05 Eastern or 7:05 Pacific, you will hear the show streamed live. As many of you may have heard, I was on the Celebrity Millennium last week, the first American ship sailing in the Western Hemisphere with U.S. passengers since the pandemic. Sailing from St. Martin and to islands like Barbados and Curacao and Aruba. The passengers only about 648, about a third, less than a third of the capacity the ship can hold. And lots of things to talk about that cruise and what it represents. You had to be thoroughly tested before you got on the ship. You had to be thoroughly vaccinated before you got on the ship. And that also applied to the crew and the officers as well. So you had 100% vaccination compliance. And the ports could not have been happier to have the ship for all the obvious economic reasons. And in fact, on our radio show this week, I'll be speaking with both the prime ministers of St. Martin and Barbados. So listen in for that. But the fact that this ship was sailing doesn't mean there isn't a huge pissing match going on right now between the states of Texas and Florida and the cruise industry. You may notice that the state of Texas passed legislation saying it was illegal for anybody to require anybody to be vaccinated to receive any kind of good or service. And the state of Florida not only has that new legislation as well, but it has a fine imposed for every instance where someone is required to have a vaccination. $5,000 per incident, multiply that by the number of people on a cruise ship, and you realize it ain't going to happen. So what are the cruise lines doing? Well, many cruise lines are still insisting on 100% vaccination before you get a chance to board. I understand that. However, in the wake of the Florida governor and the new legislation, some cruise lines, like Royal Caribbean, are announcing that on many of their Florida departures, vaccinations will be optional. Good luck with that. In every survey that I've seen, overwhelming numbers of repeat cruise ship passengers and prospective cruise ship passengers are saying they would only go with confidence and book and actually make a reservation on a cruise ship if everybody had to be vaccinated. Now, it's interesting to note, and one of the reasons why I started my cruise in St. Martin, the reason why that ship became a home ported in St. Martin was simply because they didn't want to be under ridiculous guidelines that they felt were being imposed on them. And so many cruise lines literally moved their assets to St. Martin, Bermuda, Bahamas, Iceland, Greece, etc., to be home ported, to never go from or to a U.S. port. Now, having said that, there are cruises sailing from U.S. ports later this month. Port Everglades, Disney's going to do a test cruise. Royal Caribbean's going to do one. Celebrity Edge is going to do one. And then on the West Coast, they're starting cruises for real out of Seattle to Alaska and not stopping in Canada. Remember, President Biden signed that waiver that didn't require you to stop in a foreign port, which means for those cruise ship passengers, you may not even have to bring your passport because you're not sailing to any foreign country. You're just going to another state. And you won't have to be tested under the U.S. rules to return from a foreign country to the United States. So a lot of benefits there for people who want to do that. But once again, you got to get vaccinated. That's what's going on. So that's what's going on in the cruise ship business. We'll follow that because as the cruise lines move their assets to ports like St. Martin, can they really sustain cruising from Florida paying those fines for requiring vaccinations of their passengers? The answer, of course, is no. So that means they may be moving out of Florida as well, and Galveston. because Carnival is supposed to schedule cruises out of Galveston with fully vaccinated ships. That may not be the case anymore. We will be following that closely. As I mentioned to you weeks ago, as more and more European countries are opening, France and Spain both opened this week. France on the 6th, Spain yesterday. You're seeing more and more countries open. And as I predicted last week, I said, President Biden's going over to Europe for the G7. Get ready for, Boris Johnson to lower those levels of restrictions for American passengers who are vaccinated. That's on the verge of happening as we speak. And once that happens, Scotland and Wales will go right behind the UK. And of course, in Canada, they can no longer be standing out on the alone by themselves. You're going to see that happening within the next month. They can't keep kicking it down the road. We have morphed from a public health issue to an economic one, where it's a metric based on how many people are vaccinated who want to come see you versus how many people are vaccinated in your own home country. And that's one of the reasons why all these countries are opening up now to people who have been fully vaccinated. So we'll be following that. Now, having said that, we have to get to my airline situation. The question that I always ask, and right now I think it's a rhetorical one, is as we are emerging from COVID-19, are the airlines reverting to past pre-pandemic bad behavior? Answer, 3-letter word, yes. So is the TSA, right? They're closing off checkpoints at peak travel times. They're even closing off the pre-check checkpoints. This is ludicrous. Look, you've had 15 months to realize travel was coming back. There are no surprises here. Why are you going back to bad behavior patterns? The thing that makes me angriest is they're doing it at the very hours that people are traveling the most. Why are you closing off security lanes between 6 and 8 in the morning and 4 and 6 in the afternoon? Ridiculous. But it even gets worse. I want to start a new show called, But Wait, It Gets Worse. And here it is. When they do close off these lines, what are they doing in the process? They're using that time during peak travel times to train their agents. They should be training their agents at 11 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Get real. So here's my advice, which, by the way, is not new. It's the advice I gave everybody before the pandemic when the TSA was doing the exact same behavior. Here it is. When you get to the airport and you have a number of security lanes to choose from, which one do you pick? And I know what you're going to tell me. I'll pick the shortest. No, you won't. That's an incorrect answer. You don't go by the length of the line. I don't care how long the line is. It could be out to Brazil. What you care about is how many agents of the TSA are looking at their computer monitors by the conveyor belts where the bags are going through. If there's one agent and he's looking at that computer line, you know what? I don't care if the line is to Brazil. Pick that line. It's going to move. But if you see 2 agents looking at that computer screen, you know what that means? They're training one of them, and every bag gets stopped for 1.5 minutes. Let's do the math. Have you missed your flight yet? Yes, you have. All right. So until the TSA basically embraces common sense, which maybe never, this is the deal you're going to have to do. Be counterintuitive. Don't pick the shortest line. Pick the line with 1 agent, not with 2. And you'll thank me. Oh, I hate that. Moving along. I remembered about bad behavior. Let's talk about airlines. And I'm going to give you one of my examples. Last week, we talked about an airline, American, that got 2 shout-outs from me for doing the right thing, right? For getting people where they needed to go during extraordinary time challenges. And they did it. They got big gold stars for that. The same airline this week doesn't get that. Let me tell you my experience. I got off the ship in Barbados. I was flying from Barbados to Miami to connect to New York. The only way I could get back to New York. We got on the plane on time. And by the way, it was completely full. What a surprise. That's what the planes are these days. We now fly from Barbados to Miami. We land 5 minutes early, and there's no gate available. Now, let me explain how airlines work. Perhaps I could explain it to the airlines themselves. From the moment that plane pushes back from wherever it's coming from, in this case, Barbados, the airline gets an immediate notification that that particular plane is moving. They know precisely within 90 seconds what time that plane is landing. There are no surprises. Planes just don't show up at airports going, hello. No, They knew they were coming for at least 3.5 hours. So they can adjust. The airlines that are my favorite airlines are the ones that adjust well. The ones that are not are the ones that don't adjust at all. So here's what happened. We land 10 minutes early, no gate available, and we sat for 41 minutes. In that 41-minute time, everybody misses their connection. And what happens to the bags? Even worse. So I had a choice. Either wait for my bags in Miami, because you have to clear customs there, or and miss the flight, or get the flight and lose the bags. I chose get the flight, lose the bags. Not a great choice, but I needed to go somewhere. So I get back to New York, and I know the way this works. And so do you. Anybody who's been in a situation where the airline loses your bag, you know you have to go fill out 16 forms and point to the color of the bag. Black, and it has wheels. That's helpful. And then you know what's going to happen next? Assuming they find the bag, and in most cases they do, I'll give them credit for that, then they subcontract out to a service. It's usually a guy in an old Ford Econoline van named Vern. He may be the same guy I talked about at the runway in Bozeman a couple of weeks ago. I love the name Vern. I'm sorry if you're Vern. I do this affectionately. However, they subcontract out to a guy in a van, and you get your bag at 2 o'clock the next morning, even though they found the bag and could have gotten it to you within 4 hours. So I get back to New York. I call American Airlines. I am put on hold. I timed it for 37 minutes. Now, the interesting thing about calling American Airlines, and by the way, this happens at United as well, the recorded message you get, which I think is so stupid, considering the time you have to wait, is at the end of this call, please stay on the line for a 2-minute survey to talk to us about our performance. I'm going to give you the survey now. I'm not going to waste another 2 minutes after waiting for 37 minutes. Here's the survey. Your performance sucks. 37 minutes on hold is not acceptable. But wait, here it comes. It gets worse. Because not only did I finally get somebody on the phone who couldn't help me, then they asked me to go online and fill out a form. Greenberg's rule number 9. Anytime somebody tells you to get online and fill out a form, don't do it. You need to have a conversation. You need to have somebody take responsibility and share your sense of urgency. It's not just for me, it's for you. It's anybody, right? And in the service industry, the way you succeed and win is not by the beginning idea of the service itself. It's how you recover when something screws up. They did not recover well here, and that's why we're having this little chat today. So they finally find the bag. I knew where the bag was. It was landing in Miami at about 7 o'clock at night. This is now 10 o'clock the next day, and they said they found the bag, and it was en route. Do you know what time I got my bag? Anybody want to guess? Are you listening, Vern? 1:41 in the morning the next day. Is this acceptable? Let's all answer together. No. So are the airlines going back to bad behavior? You bet. Are the airlines now flying all full planes? You bet. Are they raising airfares? You bet. In fact, I'm going to give you an airfare comparison now because there is a silver lining here. Okay, I'm done bitching about American. I just wanted to give them their 2-minute survey that they asked you to hold on the phone even longer for. All right, now let's move on. Airfares. I told you before they're going up at a rate of 7 to 10% a week. That's compounded. International fares went up last week 13%, but even with that 13% rise, they're still a bargain. Think about this. LA to New York, $650, but tonight, if I want to fly New York to Milan, it's $590. If I want to fly Newark to Athens, it's $776. Move quickly, guys, because those rates are going to increase as we get into July, but at least you know there are bargains there as Europe is opening up. Another bargain right here in the U.S. that never gets any press, it was already a bargain before they discounted it, is on Amtrak. Amtrak does an absolutely terrible job of letting you know that they've got great deals. And one of the great deals they've always had, this is pre-pandemic, is their 30-day pass. Do you know about it? Bet you don't. Up until recently, it was a 30-day pass that gave you 30 days of rail transportation for $500. For kids under the age of 12, $250. What I loved about it is you can basically check off all the boxes and visit all your dysfunctional relatives in one trip. Get it out of the way. But seriously, it's a great bargain. It's now even a better bargain. Amtrak is selling that same pass, which gives you 10 segments in 30 days for $299. It's unheard of, especially considering we're coming into the summer. You got to book it by the 22nd of June. So I'm just letting you know about that. It's a great deal. Amtrak never tells anybody about it, but I just did. Now, moving along, we've got a situation right now where the new airlines are coming out again with more new routes. I don't know where they're even finding the planes or the pilots, but they're there. I'm in Wilmington, Delaware right now. Guess who's coming into Wilmington now? One of their new routes. It's Frontier. It's coming into Newcastle Airport right here in Wilmington. By the way, which airlines were coming to Wilmington before the Frontier announcement? Zero. Now, Delta was here at one point, but they left. Now Frontier is coming back. I think they're flying to 2 Florida cities. I'll know more about that soon. But the bottom line is, even Wilmington now is getting service. This is a good thing. Let's go to some of your questions. I'm going to try to scroll up and try not to miss anybody. Again, just a little housekeeping. Our radio show, Eye on Travel, on Saturdays from 10 to 1. Check out our website, of course, with the imaginative name, petergreenberg.com. And, of course, on PBS, The Travel Detective, and soon our new shows called Hidden, which will be premiering in the fall. Okay. Robin DiCarlo says, aloha from Williamsburg. Catherine says, I'm in Texas. So embarrassing. Catherine, you said that. I didn't. Joy Daniels. How can you get a good room when signing into a resort or hotel? I got an easy one for you, Joy. Here's how you do it. Before you ever get your room key, right? You check in, you give them the credit card, you already have a reservation. But before you ever get your room key, ask them, can you tell me how close is my room to the construction? Because every hotel is in one form or another in a restoration period or a renovation thing. They're flipping rooms and they're flipping floors. So if you don't ask that question, you get handed the keys to the jackhammer suite, right? Also ask this question. Is my room on top of the ballroom? Because as hotels reopen at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know what's happening in the ballroom? They're throwing out all the wine bottles. That's a wake-up call you don't want. And then the thing you want to ask for is a room under the 6th floor. Not the first floor, but 2 through 6. Why? Many of you know I'm a volunteer fireman. I will tell you why. There's not a fire department in the world that can get above the 7th floor and effectively fight a fire. So if you want to be on the top floor of a building, you're going to have a great room with a view of the fire department being unable to reach you. So there you go. Under the 6th floor. And one more thing I'm going to share with you, which nobody will ever tell you, but I will. Who likes bad water pressure in your hotel room shower? Not me and not you. So one more question you're going to ask that front desk clerk, who's going to look at you like deer in the headlights until they make one more phone call. But it's a phone call you want them to make. And the question is, can you tell me which floors have the booster pumps? I'm serious. No hotel can maintain adequate water supply pressure on every floor. So on different floors, not just alternating floors, but on different floors, they'll put in booster pumps. You ask for, where's the floor that's got the booster pumps? Ask for a room on that floor. Get the room, open the door, go into the bathroom, turn on the shower. It's a fire hose. You're welcome. All right, let's move on. Bonjour from Ventura. Hello, Lindy. Tanya says, do you think Celebrity Edge will actually sail out of Port Everglades next month? Yes, it will, because it's essentially a test cruise with 95% vaccination. They're leaving that extra 5%, which is the CDC guidance, so I think they will sail. But this battle with the Florida state and the Florida governor is not over yet, guaranteed. Here's one from Scott who says, I'm heading back to Cancun on June 15th. Good for you. Okay. Laura says, hello from San Juan Capistrano. All right. Greetings from Raleigh, says Vicky Rogers. Angelo and Poco, my friend from American Express. Any updates on the digital vaccination passports, or is that no longer a focus? Actually, there are about 7 European countries that are going to start issuing them. But the question is, who's going to accept them? We're still in the early stages here, Angelo. Also, what is the view of those that had COVID-19 and have antibodies? Do they still need a vaccination? You know what? You can't use that as an excuse to not get to get on a ship or to get on a hotel or to get into these countries. Get the vaccination. By the way, speaking of American Express, there are a number of companies out there right now that are still in financial difficulty in the travel world. And my suggestion to you is, if you're going to use a credit card, and most of you do, to make your reservations and to confirm them, keep in mind that credit card companies have something called risk assessment. They want to know how risky their own investment is, since they're the actual takers of your money and they're taking it and giving it to the travel operator. It's something called a holdback. Most of you have never heard about it, but it's happening. It happened with Norwegian Air. It happened with a couple of cruise lines. It's happening with a couple of cruise lines right now, that credit card companies like American Express, Visa, MasterCard, et cetera, are doing holdbacks. That means that when you use that card to book that cruise, the credit card company is not giving that money directly to the cruise at that point. They're holding it back, sort of an escrow situation, until that ship actually sails. Now, in the process of doing that, the credit card companies are protecting themselves. They may, in fact, be bankrupting those operators because they need the cash. But ethically, you can't pay Peter and rob Paul, etc. So find out. Ask your travel agent, even call your credit card company and say, are you doing holdbacks on this particular vendor? And if they are, now you're forewarned. All right? You may still be protected under credit card rules, but you understand then what the financial viability is of the travel provider that you're wanting to do business with. All right, let's move on right here. Claire says, I'm traveling to Italy on July 12th on a COVID-free flight. Is it necessary to quarantine upon arrival? No, it's not. That's the whole purpose of the COVID-free flights, right? You're already in the bubble. All right, Stephen Graves says, come back to Kingsport, Tennessee, and we'll do lunch at the Meadowood Resort and Conference Center. That's a shameless plug from Stephen Graves, but you know what? I will come back to Kingsport for another reason. They're a minor league baseball team. Love going to watch them play. Okay, hello from Connecticut from Lisa. Hello from Boynton Beach. Lindy says, are rail passes logical for a trip to France and possibly beyond? Yes, they are. Absolutely. You can buy them in increments of 1 week, 2 week, or a month. They really work. And more trains that used to not be part of the program are part of the program. Don't buy the first class passes, buy the second class. You'll be better off. Debbie wants to know, how was the Millennium? It was great. It was remarkably unremarkable, right? It was like any other cruise with a couple of exceptions. You had to wear a mask to get on the ship. You had to wear a mask to get off the ship. The crew and the officers wore masks 24/7. And of course, I know what you're wanting to know. How was the buffet? Well, they did have a buffet, but it's a completely different protocol. You can't go and get your own food. You go to each food station, you point to what you want, and a crew member who's properly attired then plates it for you. The good thing about that is you're not going to overload your plate, right, buffet goers? Okay. Other than that, there are hand washing stations that you actually go through before you get to the buffet. So nobody's touching the food. And I think that's a good idea. A lot of good things are going to come out of this. And that's one of them. What are the possibilities of traveling to Germany soon? Catherine wants to know. Excellent. Things are changing in Europe. One by one, those EU countries are opening. All right. Terry says, good info. Thank you, Terry. Hey, hello again from Uganda. All right. Right back at you. The Pearl of Africa, as Winston Churchill called it. Thank you for that nice note, Vicky, excuse me. Christelle wants to know, hi from Burbank. I'm going to Europe in a couple of weeks. Can the PCR test needed to be obtained for free through your city, or do you need to get it from a travel clinic? Okay, you know what it is? It's turned into somewhat of a scam. I'm sorry. Yes, you can get it free. You don't have to go spend $125 at some lab, which, by the way, will make you wait 3 to 4 days to get the results anyway. In New York City, I go through the New York City Department of Health. I go to 138th Street in Madison. I make an appointment. They take me within 10 minutes. It's easy. It's a PCR test. And within 4 hours, I have an email with my results. So the answer is yes, you can. Just do your homework. All right, let's keep going. Oh, that's great. Hold on a second. I'm going to do that right now. Terry wants to know, could I do you a favor and straighten the picture behind you? Hold on. Just for you, Terry, I did that. All right, let's keep going. I'll have a talk with the interior decorator of the hotel after this. David Alpern, my old buddy from Newsweek. International travel PCR test are required within 72 hours of travel. What if there are two legs? We were going to LAX to JFK on AA and then a long layover there before JFK to overseas. Is the 72-hour window only measured to leg one or also must be compliant? No, as long as you are just on that same flight PNR, that means passenger name record, as long as you're not leaving LAX, once you get there, it's just a quick layover. They basically mark that because you're on when you get on that plane in LAX to JFK, you're already on an international flight, right? They're going to clear you right there. You're going to be fine. All right. Let's see. Okay. Oh, Terry said, thank you for straightening the photo. You got it. All right. Robin DeCarlo says, in case of lost luggage, we always take photos of our luggage and give it along with the paperwork you have to fill out and put our information onto each piece of luggage big enough so when you open it, it's the first thing you see. Great advice, Robin, but I'll do you one better. Yes, you want to take a photo of your luggage, including the luggage tags, right? Not your ID tags, but the airline tags, but do something else before you even get to the airport. Get a huge piece of like masking tape, the fabric tape, not the paper tape, and then get an indelible Sharpie. And on the inside of your bag, as you open up the bag, which is the first thing they're going to see if they open up the bag, is you're going to write your name and your phone number. And the reason for that is conveyor belts still like to eat luggage tags. So if they rip off the tags or your ID, they have no idea where you are and who you are. And that bag ends up like in a place like Scottsboro, Alabama, at the land of all lost baggage, and they sell it. So yes, secondary ID on the inside of the bag, indelible marker with the masking tape. That's my advice. Somebody just said, where was the, hold on a second. I'm scrolling again. Wow, so many questions coming in. Hold on. We're going to come back up here. Okay. Debbie Schmaltz North says, I always get a bright luggage color always. I'm going to tell you my story about bright luggage. A couple of years ago, in fact, I should say many years ago, I was flying to New York on Eastern Airlines. That'll give you an idea of how many years ago it was. And I'm waiting at LaGuardia for my bag. And who's standing next to me, coming off the first class section of the plane, waiting for his bag? Emilio Pucci, the famous designer. I'm thinking, I'm sticking around. I want to see what his bag looks like. What, designer bag, right? Wrong. His bag comes out. It's the cheapest, ugliest, vomit green Samsonite I've ever seen. He knew exactly what he was doing. When I looked at him, he looked at me like, yeah, they're not going to lose this bag. He was right. Okay. All right. Here's one from Carmen. Hello from Tampa. Best advice to when to book European flights for next April for a river cruise. Answer, not now. The algorithms the airlines are using to determine and project demand and set prices is not working. And you're way too soon, even if it was. So what you want to do, if it's next April, look at it in November and look at it again at the end of January, early February, in that 54-day window prior to you taking the trip. Because that's when they're going to be able to see if demand is holding up. And in April, for a river cruise, you're going to see pretty good prices by then, right? The prices jump up after June 1. But in April, but if you go now and you look at it now, they're going to price it, as at a much higher rate because they want to see what they're going to get because they don't know. Those algorithms aren't working, okay? All right. Gina Ruggiero says she's under the flight path in San Diego. It's getting noisier. I get it. Hi, Peter from Karen. Hi from Oregon. Maridel, my buddy. Are Frontier Airlines and Spirit Airlines a good idea going to Vegas or Florida? Well, remember, here's how both of these airlines make their money. They don't make the money on the airline tickets because airline tickets are taxed at a very high rate. They make their money on things that are not taxed at a high rate. Baggage, change fees, boarding passes, water. So as long as you understand what you're getting into and you can budget accordingly and you don't need a lot of bags or water, it's a very economical way to fly. All right, because when you buy the extra baggage charge from them, that gets taxed at a state tax rate, which is significantly lower than the airline ticket fee. So they know that going in. That's why Spirit used to offer $1 tickets, because that's taxed at about 70 cents. But the bag fee at $50 or $100, that's where they make their money. Now you know the secret. Is it correct? This is from Tim. Is it correct that vaccinated Americans do not need to show a PCR test on arrival in Spain? Second question, one needs to get a QR code from Spain Travel Health. I've read several articles on this, and they all provide a link to the site. Okay. And you say this site is not private. Listen, right now, you're talking about two separate things. What you need to get into a country and who's controlling the data and how safe is it. We have a huge issue with data privacy, especially when it comes to COVID-19 and vaccination cards. You and I both know on one level, I can go to Kinko's and copy one, and no immigration officer is going to know the difference most of the time. That's a huge loophole and a flaw in the system. On the other end, we need some more regulations as to who uses the data, who shares the data, and sometimes who even sells the data. And right now, we're in a brave new world, and you bring up a point about uncharted territory. All right. I just wrote, this is from Stephen, I just wrote from Amtrak from Florida, and it was horrible. Young mothers screaming at their babies to shut the blank up. This is new to you? Stephen, I just came from Penn Station to the Joe Biden Amtrak station here in Wilmington, and there are a few mothers screaming at their kids. It happens. Okay, you said that the bathrooms are not clean. The trip was smelled awful. That's another story. Amtrak also ran out of food in the cafe car 6 hours before arriving in D.C. Okay, another issue I'd like to discuss with you, Steve. You go on Amtrak for the food? Are you kidding me? How much do you love Pringles? Look, it's a BYO deal. Just don't bring something that's messy or stupid, right? Pack accordingly. Wear the big, Darth Vader headphones. Enjoy your music playlist, and understand that Amtrak is doing the best they can. They're still doing social distancing. You still have to wear a mask, and they're still not making you sit next to anybody else. That's a plus. And I mean, I do a big shout out to Amtrak, except in the food category. But other than that, let's face it. When I see stories saying that airlines are now bringing food back to the planes, I go, there was food on the planes before? The way I define food? Remember, airline food is an oxymoron. Train food, at least in this country, is an oxymoron unless you define train food as Pringles. Sorry, Stephen, but thank you for your comments. But let's get real. All right. Lorenda said, I asked about those booster pumps in the hotel for years. Then you're taking my advice. Okay. Looking to go to Austin, Texas in mid-August. Should we do flights now or wait a bit? No, do flights now. That you're within that 54-day window, and those prices are going way up. Karen Frankel, hello from LA. Hello from Alabama. We were just there, as you know. Was this the week you were going to update us on the new Egyptian Museum behind-the-scenes tour? It was. We reached out to the Minister of Tourism, who I'm talking to next Tuesday, and we will have you that answer. The museum is just ready to open, by the way. And I hope, for all of our sakes, they are going to do those tours. They are well worth it. Okay. Some suggestions to ensure you have a car through the rental car agency when you arrive. Should you double book? No. Here's what you do. Most of you who book a car are booking a car online, right? And even if you're booking it through a travel agent, you just get a confirmation online. Is that enough? No. You need the direct phone number of that franchise location, whether it's at an airport or at a city or at a hotel franchise location, and call to talk to the general manager. Have a conversation. Having a piece of paper doesn't mean anything anymore, right? And make sure you tell them exactly what time you're arriving, and then call them the day before to confirm it. Even send them a thank you note, because here's what's going on. Because there's such a shortage of rental cars, a lot of people who are renting cars are keeping them, and they're going beyond the stated length of the contract, so that when the car is supposed to be there for you, some guy named Vern, we're back to Vern, is driving your car. But if you talk to the manager of that rental car agency and he knows you're coming and he knows he's got to find another car ahead of time, they might hold one for you. Double booking is not going to be the answer. All right. You're anxious to hear about my recent experience on Celebrity. We'll be talking about that on the radio show this Saturday with everybody who's on the ship. So stay tuned on that one. But when I say it was remarkably unremarkable, it went great. It was smooth. It was relatively seamless. Shore excursions had to be escorted in Barbados, right? You were in a bubble, but in Aruba, you weren't. So it's based on the port regulations of where you're going. But that doesn't mean you're not going to get tested, and it doesn't mean you can't be vaccinated and not go on the ship. You have to be vaccinated to be on the ship. Our cruises are the only ones who want vaccinated customers, because my husband won't take it even after I told him the cruise line won't have him until he's, look, work out your marital difficulties on your own, Geraldine, or maybe take the cruise as a solo passenger and see what happens. Okay. All right. I heard you need to be tested when returning from Italy to the U.S. Is this true? Yes, it is. It's true for you if you're returning from anywhere overseas to the U.S. That regulation is still in place, even if you've been vaccinated. Hello from Miami to Susan Buckner. Michael says Los Angeles. Hello. Here's one, Ann Wiener. Should I hold back on canceling my cruising due to cannot get vaccination for medical reasons? Well, you haven't told me enough information, Ann, as to when you can get the medical reasons taken care of so that you can get vaccinated. So without that information, I can't give you that advice. Hello from Split, Croatia. Borders in Croatia are open to all, whether you have a PCR test or fully vaccinated. Thank you for the information. And Susan says it's still a crooked photo. I'm not getting up again. All right. Lindy says, shall we buy the rail pass in the U.S. or can we wait until France? You can't buy the rail pass in France. The rail passes have to be bought in the U.S. in conjunction with your airline ticket before you leave the country, okay? What do I think of, this is a very good question from Mike Lukens. What do I think about all the vaccine flip-flopping from Royal Caribbean? Do you think they should have bowed down to the Florida Governor, Ron DeSantis? I'm not going to give you an answer about whether they should or shouldn't have agreed with the Florida rule. What I'm going to tell you is, once you have a policy, keep the policy. If you don't, confusion rules the waves. And that's what's happening here. For Royal Caribbean to come out and say now, on our ships sailing from Florida, vaccine is optional. Really? That's like saying when you go to the hospital for an operation, surgery is optional. No, guys, get real, figure it out. This is not an economic issue. 85% of all prospective cruise passengers will tell you that they're not going to book a cruise. They're certainly not going to go on one unless they're convinced that everybody's been vaccinated, including them. So vaccination optional. Hey, Mutiny on the Bounty, part 4. All right. Where are we going now? Oh, we're scrolling down again because we got so many more questions. Let me do this the right way here. Hold on, guys. All right. David Alpern is saying you might have free tests in New York, but what about my city in Southern California? My understanding, David, is a lot of cities are using baseball stadiums, theaters, and other public activities to offer those free tests. So just call your city's Department of Health. Don't look for it in the yellow pages. Call the city Department of Health and asking, where can I get a free test? I'll make you a bet they're going to tell you. All right. Here's from Lorraine. Alaska Airlines has denied me boarding twice for not being at the gate 30 minutes prior to departure. But the clincher is they did not honor my TSA pre-check, of which I've held for 4 years, which then delayed me. Okay, here's how you figure this out. And not a lot of people are going to figure this out until I tell you. When you're going to make a reservation, and most of you do it online, you will see there's a window in that reservation box for your authorization number from either global entry or pre-check. Make sure it's in that record, or it will never come up at the counter or at the gate, right? And don't assume that because they gave it to you once, it's going to be there again. Do it every time. Put in your authorized, a trusted traveler number in the box there's a box for it on the online form of any airline, and next thing you know, it'll come up. Because if you don't do that, you may go into the dark world of the 4 S's. That's a secondary inspection. That's really going to delay you. Okay. You're saying I'm also considering Clear. Will they be able to deny pre-ID after we pay for the benefit? No, listen. Clear is a great idea. And guess what? It works. I use it all the time. Remember when I was talking about the TSA closing off the lines? Clear is the best antidote to that because it puts you at the front of the long line. It does. It's a biometric reading of your eyes, and bingo, you're in. So now make sure that you're registered with Clear with that authorized number from the TSA as well, or the Department of Homeland Security, actually, for either global entry or TSA PreCheck. All right? And Tim Farrell is quoting my line, there are only two types of luggage, carry-on and lost. I agree. That's why I never check bags domestically. In my case, I FedEx my bags domestically. I save 2.5 hours of my life doing that. But in the case of international, I have to check bags, and we all saw what happened to me the other night. Okay, let's go right to our photo of the week before we run out of time. Oh wait, before we do that, I know you guys wanted me to check on some stuff. When I was in St. Martin, I went to dinner at a great place called Emilio's. It's in a building that dates back to 1724, but I have an issue with their menu. Can we punch up this photo? Here it is. Can you read it? I hope you guys can see it. You know what's on the menu? And by the way, the food was great, but I have a word about the wording in the menu. Ready? Remember I talked about airline food? What's on the menu? Airline chicken. Please, Emilio, go back to the printer. All right, we're enough on that. You also wanted me to talk about unpronounceable cities in the United States, and one of you sent in the ones from Wisconsin. Punch that up. All right. Muskota, Oconomowoc, Kinnickinnick, and La Courte d'Orioles. I think I did okay. All right, now let's go to the photo of the week. Photo of the week this week goes to Ron Hard. What a cool picture this is. You guys know where it is? Anybody? Well, it's Horseshoe Bend in Page, Arizona. He took it while he was on his way traveling from the Grand Canyon to Monument Valley and onto the 5 national parks in Utah. His quote, "I didn't realize it would be over a half-a-mile walk, but we made the journey, bad knees and all. I'm so glad I did it because we got some great pics." This one was taken, by the way, from his iPhone. Nice job, Ron. Horseshoe Bend in Page, Arizona. Now let's go to some of your questions that you wrote in for. When will French tourists be allowed to come back in the United States? It's going to happen momentarily because once the UK drops that red light on us and allows green light for vaccinated Americans to go there, the United States is going to practice reciprocity, and fully vaccinated European travelers will be allowed to come here. Expect it to happen before August 1st. Chris says, to go through the TSA, can I bring a salad with Italian dressing already mixed up all over it? That's like the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Is it a liquid? I don't know. My answer right now would be yes, you can. And if not, eat the salad early. Okay. Liz wants to know, how do I renew my global entry right now with the least amount of hassle? Right now, you got to go online. All right. And that's an easy online application. It takes a while. But since you're only renewing it, it shouldn't take that long. If you're applying for the first time, they're going to ask you to list every single country you've been in the entire life that you have lived. And in my case, that took 3 hours, but I hope it's not going to be the same for you. But start the process online. The key, though, is when you're going to get the interview, and that may take some while. So do it now. Okay, here we go. Do I know if any cruises will sail from New Orleans? Not right away. The ports that they're looking at right now are Galveston, Port Everglades, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Seattle. But there'll be more coming online. New Orleans right now, not right away. Is the Inca Trail fully open in Peru? It is not. And we don't know when they're going to reopen it, but when we find out, we will tell you. Why are countries not simply making arrangements for fully vaccinated? Well, they are. They are. That's what the EU has done, and that's what we're about to do to reciprocate. Stay tuned. Okay, Phil says, when do you think there will be one universal vaccine passport? Lately, I have to tell you, I don't. I mean, everybody's operating in their own self-interest. There's no centralized set of standards. So for the moment, at least, it's your CDC vaccine card that's going to do the trick. And here's one from Aaron. I want to take an Amtrak train this summer. What are some of the best routes you recommend? Well, I love long-haul travel. I'm going to tell you my favorite route on Amtrak. I have two. The Sunset Limited, of course, the Zephyr, and the third one, which nobody gets to that often, is the Southern Crescent. It starts at Penn Station in New York, stops in Washington, D.C., and then heads south all the way to New Orleans. It's an amazing historic run. And if you buy that pass I just talked to you about, which gives you the on-off privileges, you really get to stop and see America. We're almost out of time, so let me do this. I'm sorry if I didn't get all your questions. We'll try to do them online. Of course, we'll do them on the radio show this Saturday. Again, the radio show Eye on Travel between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern. You can also stream it online at 10:05 a.m. Eastern by going to our website, petergreenberg.com. And I'll see you on a number of CBS shows coming up, as well as PBS shows coming up. So stay tuned on that. Thanks to the Hotel DuPont right here in Wilmington, Delaware, for letting us use their facilities to broadcast the Facebook Live. Come back and visit Wilmington, one of America's most manageable cities. And of course, come into the Joseph R. Biden Amtrak station, as I did, and as I'm about to leave from there as well. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next week, and I'll have more stories on my 2-minute survey on American Airlines about their service. Bye-bye, everybody.